Okay, let's go.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel, and thank you for stopping by. If you haven't already done so, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you subscribe, please hit that notification bell to all so you'll be notified of all the new content that I'm pushing out. Now, today I want to talk about, so I've talked already about corruption with the judicial system, the judges, things that I've witnessed personally, things that were personal when I worked at the felony probation officer. So I want to talk about this because I had watched somebody show this, or they did a video today about it, and about probation and felony probation and about getting a revocation here, getting revoked, sent back to prison. So I kind of want to explain behind the closed doors and in the judge's chambers. And the reason I want to touch base is because a lot of people don't know what goes on behind those doors, and they don't really know. I mean, so let's say you're on felony paper and you keep getting violated, and so they want to revoke your probation and send you back to prison. Or let's say you cop the new charge, and so they want to send you back. Whatever the case may be. All right. And there's a process to it. I think I've already explained it to you guys. So what, like, say me personally say, I have to, I got to revoke this person, and they have whether they absconded or whether they just kept violating, and then I had to keep, arresting them and putting them in jail. And then but you have to show progressive discipline. So I always had to, like, there was only one time this happened to me. It's all about documentation. I mean, you got to document the shit out of everybody. All right. Because what happens is when you go for this revocation hearing, and I'll just tell you this little story real quick. I was trying to, I had this guy up for revocation, and he was on the run for a long time. So I was revoking his probation, and of course I had a warrant for him. I put a warrant out for him, and eventually he gets caught because I worked warrants, but if I went everywhere, searching when we did warrants for certain people, you get tips. People tell you, oh, he's over here, or she's over here, or whatever it may be. Anyways, this guy had bounce. He had split the state, so there was no finding him. So I just put out a warrant. He had a nationwide warrant. I put a revocation, and I have to file it. So I have to get all my ducks in a row of all his violations, or that he absconded and he was gone for 2 years or a year and hasn't reported, and or whatever the case may be on that. Okay, so when I do a revocation, I've got to type everything up, like in a report, everything that happened in that case, all the times that we did have contact, we didn't have contact. Then I have to send it over to the DA's office or the prosecuting attorney. Depends on where you live. In California, it's a DA. Back east, it's the prosecutor. So I have to send that over to him, and then he files for the revocation initially. So then we go in front of the judge. So this guy had been gone for, I'm just going to guess, 1 or 2 years. He was gone. He was gone. He split the state. He got caught. He got extradited back. He sat in the county while all this was going on because I had filed, the revocation. I had the warrant for him, and then so it goes to the prosecutor, and then when the prosecutor gets it, then they set up a court date, and then you have to go to court, and then he's got a defense attorney. I only had one guy one time who refused an attorney, and he didn't want to try to do anything, but we'll get into that at a different time. So he had a good defense attorney, and I was pretty, good rapport with all the attorneys. You know what I mean? You just get a rapport. They want to talk to you and about their client, or help them out, whatever they're trying to do. But you just build a rapport, a friendship type thing with some of them. Some of them aren't like that. A lot of them are. And you deal with them on a daily basis or on a regular, so you get to know them, So this guy, he gets a good attorney. I know him. I know the attorney, and he is really good. So while he was on the run, what he would do was he would call my phone, my direct office phone, which had voicemail, and he would leave a voicemail. And although he never reported and he split, he would leave a voicemail saying, hey, I know I was supposed to come in, and I apologize. I'm just trying to, I got shit going on. I'm trying to get it all figured out. I'll be in. I know I'm in trouble, but I'm not trying to avoid you. But he would always do it after hours. So when I wasn't there. So the next morning when I went in, I checked my voicemail, and then I have to write down like who called. Okay, what did they call about? And in his case, he called several times. Well, I didn't mark down like a couple times that he had called. For whatever reason, I didn't mark it down in his file. Well, this guy was marking down every time he called me. Even though he knew I wasn't in the office, he was still making sure that he documented when he called, and then he gave that information to his attorney. So he was ready, pretty much. I get on the stand, and normally the judge doesn't let the attorney have your case file, your jacket, whatever, for that individual that you're supervising, your parolee or probationer. Normally the judge won't let them have my file. But for whatever reason, so I'm getting drilled on the stand. And normally I'm okay with it, because all my ducks are in a row always, because I already know that, like, if it's all my ducks are not in a row, then I'm not going to file for a revocation because I'm going to look stupid, and he's not going to get revoked. So this case, I'm on the stand. The prosecutor's talking, the judge is talking to me, and then the defense attorney gets to talk. He asked the judge, after he's questioning me about him calling in, because he had some, they come up with all kinds of excuses or whatever. I mean, some are legit, but most of the time they're not, of why he hadn't been coming in. But he said, I called. And I said, yeah, but he called when he knew I wasn't there. He always called at like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night and left me a voicemail. I'd get it the next morning. And he's like, so you're saying, he did call you and he did reach out to you several times while he was trying to get his life or whatever he had going on, some family emergency or something. He was in contact with you. I said, well, no, he was. I mean, not directly, because he would always call, like I said, at 8 or 9 o'clock at night when I wasn't there and leave it on my voicemail. And so they just went on and on. The defense attorney asked because he went over the dates with me that he called. And he said, is that all the times, that's all the times that he called you? And I said, yeah, I have it documented in his jacket right here, in his file, that this is when he called, what time, this is what he said. And the attorney, I kind of figured, because like I said, I know him, and he's a great criminal defense attorney, and he was like, so that's all the times and dates, right? And because I had to, read them off on record, and I said, yep, that's it. Well, I knew in my head that there was a few times that he had called that I didn't write it down, and it kind of like slipped my mind, because I'm like, shit, I forgot to write that down. You know what I mean? Like I told you, I didn't write it down in his file that he called, what time, what date, what he said in the message. So he comes at me with, well, he called you on this day, and he called you on this day at this time. And it was like I said, 2 or 3 times that he called. And like I said, for whatever reason, I didn't log it down in his file. So I'm going off what I have on his jacket, his file, whatever you want to call it. And the attorney's drilling me. And I'm like, man, he's really going at me. Like normally, I don't have this problem because I have a pretty good record of keeping my shit together, right? Well, he asked the judge if they could put his file on it as an exhibit, and so that he could look over my file. And then come to find out, like again, he had called 2 or 3 times over, in that year span or whatever span it was, on top of the other times I had noted, in my file or his file that he called. There was like 2 or 3 times that I didn't mark it down. Well, the guy had every date and time. So the judge grants him that, the attorney, and he looks it over, and then he looks at his client's list, the probationer. And so then I'm still on the stand. He comes back up and he says, well, what if I tell you he called you on this date at this time? And he called you on this date at this time. And he really started drilling on me. And I'm like, man, if it's not, I go, when he contacted me, it's in his file. I mean, because I was pretty adamant that, I was correct. But I wasn't. I was wrong. And come to find out I was wrong. He had called like 3 other times. That doesn't excuse what he did. But the fact that I didn't document it and I didn't keep it in his file or didn't put it in his file, they threw the case out and he didn't get revoked, even though he was gone and he split the state. I mean, I think he got a little sanction for it, but that was it. And made me look stupid. And that was my own fault because I didn't document, man. I always tell people, if you're fighting a case, man, my shirt just keeps getting all wrinkled. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyways, no matter what you do in life, I always tell people, the best thing you can do in any case, like, people will call me and ask me for advice, and they'll be like, hey, so such and such is doing it, or the cops are talking to me, they're asking me all these questions and things like that. I said, listen, document everything. You know what I mean? Document. Because then you have a paper trail. Put the date, the time, who it was you spoke to, what they asked you, what you told them. And I always tell people, this is just my own opinion, my own advice, is invoke your 5th Amendment right. And that is, you have the right to remain silent. Don't talk at all. Because they're going to tell you, and I know this from, like I said, I was an investigator for the Major Crimes Unit, and I used to interrogate people all the time. And cops are allowed to lie. And so you always try to trick them up to get information, and you lie, you make up lies or whatever it is to get that information you want, that you need for that case. So I always say, man, don't say a word. Well, they said they got camera footage. I said, well, if they had camera footage, then they wouldn't even be talking to you right now. They would just do they would file their paperwork and then shoot it over to the DA or the prosecutor, and because you're on camera, I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're screwed. I said, they're telling you they got you on camera, but they don't have you on camera, because if they had you on camera, they wouldn't be talking to you, trying to get you to confess to something or whatever. Now, and this is just one scenario, but I always tell people, man, the best thing to do, and I just did this thing about egos and these, YouTubers and their big fat egos and where it lands them, So I always tell people that, but sometimes these, people, they've been in the system, or they just have, they're wired different. They got an attitude, and they don't like cops or whatever, and so they want to argue with the cops, or they want it, so it ends up they run in their mouth, and then it gets used against them. And that's why I say the best thing to do is just say, I got nothing to say. Oh, you got all that? Okay. Well, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Do what you got to do then. Because more than likely, they don't have anything. Now, I'm not saying all the time, but I'm saying a lot of times, especially when it comes to camera footage. Because if you got someone dead to rights, you say you got witnesses, okay? Let's pick this person out. You got witnesses, you got eyewitnesses, you have, whether it's cell phone records or whatever on this case, you got camera footage of that person being there, and there's no reason to, you want to talk to them and see if they'll just confess, but majority of the time, if they say, well, we have you on camera, what if I told you that? That's me coming at you. And myself, it was me sitting there, I'd say, well, okay, well then you got me then, huh? Or I wouldn't say that. I would just say, okay. You know what I mean? Don't try to be a dick. And people don't understand, like, you don't have to, if you're being talked to, and I don't care if it's your PO, it's a cop, it's a detective, an investigator, I'm going to tell you right now, the best advice I can give you is be nice, be polite, don't get angry, don't get upset, none of that stuff. Just don't say anything without an attorney. Nada, nothing. Don't say nothing. Well, if they threaten you to throw you in jail if you don't talk, well then go ahead. I know you don't want to go to jail, and they really have to have they have to have probable cause to do that. And I'm telling you, if they have you on camera doing some type of crime, and we're talking like a felony crime, they're going to use the camera footage, their witnesses and whatever, and that's always the game. But anyways, so this video is about the judge's chambers and what goes on behind closed doors. So I kind of want to give you a little background story of what I seen for years, and this is my own personal experience with people that are getting, say you got a revocation, you got a violation, they want to send you, they want to lock you back up, send you back, go do some time, or the rest of your time that you got on the shelf, whatever it may be. I'm going to tell you right now, this is my own experience. So let's say I'm the PO. I filed all my paperwork. The prosecuting attorney, he's got all his shit. He's got all copies of all my paperwork. And then whatever the revocation, say if it's a new charge, he's got the new charge there. If it's not for a new charge, just for the violations, whatever it may be. So here they bring you in the courtroom, all shackled up. There's your attorney. Prosecutor's over here. Whoops, I always hit my microphone. I don't understand it. You got the prosecutor on the other side and me. And then you got the judge. Okay? before the hearing even starts. And I used to feel so bad sometimes because these criminal attorneys, these defense attorneys, some of them are getting paid big money to do these cases. Okay. And the way it works in Ohio is, which like in California, when I grew up there, you got if you couldn't afford an attorney, you just got, a court appointed attorney, you know what I mean? And that was it. And you'd be lucky if you even got to talk to him for more than 5 minutes or 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Unless you was taking something to trial. Well, in Ohio, you can choose who you want. So he could be the highest paid criminal defense attorney or second best or third best, whatever. He's a good criminal and he's expensive. And you're filing indigent. Well, when you do your indigent paperwork, you put right on top of there the name of the attorney you're requesting. And they'll give them to you as your public defender. That's crazy. I mean, it's good. It's good for you. It's good for whoever's fighting, but I know California doesn't do it, or they didn't used to do it that way. If you got a court-appointed attorney or public defender, you most of the time shit out of luck. Some of them are okay, but you shit out of luck. So here's what happens. The deputy brings, or the two deputies, whatever. There's usually two deputies in the courtroom. One that's escorting, depending on your level, that escorts them in. There's one inside in the courthouse or courtroom already. And so they're sitting he's sitting down at the table. We're in the judge's chambers, okay? He's sitting out there. So we're in the judge's chambers. Judge is sitting at his desk. We're all sitting around. The prosecutor or DA, whatever you want to call him, depending on where you live. So it's you, the PO, the prosecutor, and the or DA, whatever he is, and then the defense attorney. And we're playing Let's Make a Deal in the judge's chambers before, and this guy has no clue. He's thinking like his attorney is going to, nobody's there yet. He's sitting there waiting for him to come. But we're in the judge's chambers already, playing Let's Make a Deal, or his defense attorney's playing Let's Make a Deal. Like, hey, let's put him in treatment. He's got a drug problem or alcohol problem or whatever it is. I'm like, nah, he's already been to treatment, inpatient treatment. He's already been outpatient treatment. Well, how about we just cut his time and then we'll put him back on paper? And I'm like, nah, he's violated too many times. You know what I mean? It's just, they'll sit there and play. But we always come to some type of agreement in the judge's chambers, and the judge will say, okay, so that's what's going to happen, right? So you're agreeing that your client is going to plead, just plead to the violation or the revocation, and then he's going to go for this much time. And, they work whatever deal was worked out back there. And I'm sitting there too, like I said, and it's my say because they're asking me, well, what do you think? Because, you're the one that's violating him or revoking him. What do you think? Like I said, the defense attorney was going to come at you with all kinds of different things. If he's a good defense attorney, if he's not, he's going to be like, okay, well, he'll just go back to prison then. I'm not shitting you. This is 100% how it goes, how it went several times, like almost all the time. We would go in the judge's chambers first. So then when we walk out of the judge's chambers, okay, and there would be a door in the back. Okay, well, then he has an office with the secretary. We're all going in the office door where the secretary's at, and then we go in his chambers. So the defense attorney would go out the door in the hallway, come in the courtroom, sit down with his client after we're done. Okay? And then we'd wait like 5 minutes or so, we're sitting there shooting the shit in the judge's chambers. And then we would go out, come in, through the other door into the courtroom and sit down. I already know what's going to happen. So he's talking to his client, and he's telling him, like, look, I can try this, or maybe he's telling him, hey, I can do another program. Just then I'll get back on probation. That what you're going to try for, or whatever he's telling him, And the attorney's not telling him, like, oh, I already know pretty much what's going to happen. This is what's happening, and you're going to get this, this, and this, and there's nothing I can do about it. No. So once we get in the courtroom, because it all has to be on record. So we go back in the courtroom, and then we go through kind of what we went through already, but we're doing it in a court setting. So I'm talking, the prosecutor's talking, I'm on the stand, the inmate's on the stand, and then his attorney will say, well, Your Honor, what about outpatient or inpatient, treatment? He needs treatment. He's got a drug problem. And, the judge will say, no. Or he'll look at me or the prosecutor and be like, what, and no, we disagree with that. Or and then you got to talk on why. But yeah, it's already sealed. It's a sealed deal before we come out. And it's crazy. Like, I never knew that kind of shit's how it happens. But it is. So if you're in that situation, and I'm not saying this goes on everywhere, but your fate has already been handled behind closed doors in the judge's chambers between all the parties. And when we go into court and we go on record, your defense attorneys basically already knows what's going to happen, and he already knows he's going to get shot down. So he goes to the court or to the judge. In court, he's going to play the same thing, but in a more dramatic way because he's the defense attorney sticking up for his client. So he's going to argue this and argue that, but he already knows what the end result is already. And then the judge, ends up ruling that that's what's going to happen. He's revoked or violated, and he's going back to prison and doing the rest of the time he's got on the shelf or whatever it may be. Now, I just wanted to share that with you guys because I didn't know if you guys were aware, if anybody's aware of that, and it's crazy how that happens, but it happens, man. Like every hearing I did, not every hearing, I should say, because certain judges were different, and we would talk always first in the chambers. Always. It didn't matter. We were always talking in the judge's chambers first. Then afterwards, now some judges, like whatever we agreed on back in his chambers, that's exactly what's going to happen when we're on record. Now, I have worked with other judges that they weren't like that. Like we would go in the judge's chambers, do the talking, or his defense attorney's talking, and he's like, okay, let's take this out to the courtroom because we're not getting anywhere here, or I don't want to deal with that, you know what I mean? And then he would make his ruling based on the facts or whatever. But yeah, so when you're sitting there shackled up, waiting for your attorney, well, he's back there right now. The judge isn't out there, nobody else is out there. Where are they all at? You're sitting there waiting. It's because they're all back there in the chambers, judge's chambers. Anyway, just a tip, just a little heads up. And like I said, does it happen everywhere? I don't know that. I can only speak for the courts that I worked in, or the courthouse I worked in. That's the way it went the majority of the time. Some judges weren't like that. I mean, they would you always talk to them in the chambers first. And then afterwards, some of them would just be like, okay, well, let's just go out there. And then I want to talk to, the probationer or parolee or inmate, whatever you want to call them. And so we'd have to go through the whole thing again. And then it was up to, ultimately up to the judge. So prosecutor's going to argue like, no, I'm not doing that, or they're going to ask my opinion. And I'm not saying that I always said, oh, yeah, that's what I want to do. Because some people you have to. That's your job. You got to do it. You have to do your job. You give somebody so many chances. And I would always warn them. I'm like, look, dude, the next time you screw up, I don't have a choice. I got to send you back. You know what I mean? So don't screw up anymore. Because the next time you're going back for the rest of your time. I always tell them, man. Always try to give them a chance. And it didn't always work out good. They just get caught up in that shit and they're hustling. Anyways, man, that's my video for today. I thought it was interesting. I thought, I watched this thing and I watched this guy talking about it. He didn't talk about what I just talked about. I thought, you know what? People don't even have a clue sometimes. I know California's different. A lot of states are different the way they handle their revocations or violations. But when you're sending them back for the rest of their time, whatever it may be, a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is they got on the shelf, yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. You don't get a jury trial. You don't get a trial because you're on paper and you signed all those papers to be on paper. So you have to abide by these rules, and when you don't, you get violated, and some go overboard. A couple of people I talked about that I watched, that I subscribed to, had talked about that. Violated over stupid shit. The guy next to him has done like 50 things wrong, and he gets out every time. The one guy, nope, he's gone. And that happens. And it all depends on your PO too. That's why I talked to you guys before about there was very few people. There was only, I think, two officers that I worked with that I trusted. And the rest of them, it was all backstabbing, brown nose and ass kissing snitches. Not kidding, no lie. And they were some of them, the more harsher asshole ones, and they were all the ones with the book smarts, like I told you guys, and the bachelor's degrees and chips on their shoulders and shit like that. Those are the ones you have to look out for. But yeah, violate this one. Yep, you're gone. What? Well, this dude just did freaking 10 times he's been violated and you ain't doing shit to him. Well, it's up to his probation officer or his PO. And you get those ones that just sit behind the desk that are miserable with their lives, that they're, like I said, did I trust anyone? I didn't even trust my chief, dude. That's how bad it is. That's how corrupt it is. He's like, always used to tell us, oh yeah, I got you guys' back 100%. As long as you do what but everything you're supposed to do, I got you guys. I found out she didn't have my back ever. Or anybody's for that. Well, I'd take that back. The brown nosers, he had their backs. But like me and my partner that worked out on the street, to actually, because that's where you need to be. You need to have people on the street, not just sitting behind the desk. And we would get in trouble. I'm like, are you serious? Dude, and that's the thing about working on the streets. And I talked about it in one of my lives. I've talked about it other times. Working on the streets, we recovered so many guns, drugs, sex offenders, and pornography and paraphernalia. They're not even supposed to have computers or any of that stuff. We used to work out on the street. We recovered so much shit all the time when we were out there that none of those people sitting behind the desk that won't go out on the street did. But they really didn't want them on the street. They didn't want us out on the street. We used to get in trouble for it. Like I said, why did we get in trouble for it? For doing our job. It's a political game. Well, damn, man, you're bringing in all these stuff and you're out on the street all the time and you're violating all these people because they had a gun or guns, several guns, or a freaking pound of a kilo of coke and 5 pounds of freaking weed, and because that was when weed was illegal, and whatever it was, man. You know what I mean? Instead of, like I said, I got one accommodation from the judge for a huge crack bust and weapons, and there was weapons, cash, bunch of crack, bunch of some other drugs, and we got chastised for working out in the street. But yet we did shit like this where we're making the newspaper. You know what I mean? Biggest drug bust or biggest crack bust, and we're getting in trouble for it in that county. Anyways, guys, that's it. I'll take up enough of your time. Hope you guys are having a good night. So you all be safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you on the next one.